How long did this book take to write, and how many drafts did you have to do to get it to where it was publishable and ready to go?
Oof. That's a good question. This book went through, it's funny because The Other Boy was quick. I feel like The Other Boy I probably wrote in like a month and a half, maybe. I mean, it just kind of poured out of me. Echo Park, the first draft was more of a struggle for sure. The ending in particular, I mean, one of the problems with writing without an outline is that getting to that ending, especially since I had to get them to a specific location, was challenging. I had to really figure that out in a way that would also be kind of scary and thrilling, but not too scary and thrilling, and not, something that would surprise the audience. And so that was hard. It was hard to get there. I mean, I feel like that might have taken me 5 or 6 months to finish, maybe. And then it went through a lot of revision. And a lot of that was, sensitivity reader feedback. Because, it was really important to me that each of these characters really represent the demographics that we have here in Los Angeles, since that's where the book's set. So, there's an African-American girl, there's 2 Latinx kids, there's Quentin with Asperger's. And so, we needed to have sensitivity readers for all of those things. And so that ended up resulting in a lot more changes, which was good. I mean, I think it was really helpful for me to have that input because, I wanted to make sure that I was true to all those populations. Oh, and I wanted to just say, I mean, just as an aside, when we're talking not about the book, but about the real world, one of the things that I say in my afterword, which I think is really important to address, is that the reason that we have so many people of color disproportionately represented in the foster care system is not because those kids are more likely to be abused or neglected. It's because they're more likely to be taken out of the home. There is just like a institutionalized racism in the judicial system where, for whatever reason, that is what happens, and I kind of a classic example. I have a friend who had a 3-year-old, and she was, at home with the flu with the 3-year-old. And, the mom was like on the couch, like completely out of it, just feeling like she was dying, and realized that there was a breeze in the living room, and she hadn't seen the 3-year-old in a while. Like she kind of dozed off, opened her eyes, felt a breeze, went out. And this was the day that the 3-year-old had figured out how to open the front door. And she ran, she went frantically, like running through the neighborhood in like her pajamas and her slippers. And 3 blocks away from their house by a really busy street, she sees a police car and a woman and her 3-year-old sitting on the curb. And she races up to them and is just hysterical and explaining the situation. And, the cop ended up saying like, oh, of course, we completely understand these things happen. And, she took her child home, and she, we were talking about it afterwards, and she's like, all I could think about on the way home, because she also works as a CASA, is that if I was a person of color, there's a good chance I would not have been taking my child home with me that night, because it would have been assumed that, I wasn't a fit parent. But instead, I just basically got a little like pat on the head and be more careful next time and maybe put in a childproof lock. So that's just something I want to make clear because, I don't want anyone to misconstrue why the characters are the races that they are.
Oh, hadn't even occurred to me, but that makes sense. Yeah. And unfortunately, I've talked about this before. I grew up in an mostly all white small Indiana town. And everybody on TV was white in the 80s, mostly, except for the Cosby, the good, wholesome Cosby family. There was surely never any trouble there. And then I went to school and fell in love with an African-American woman, and we got married. And it was just like stepping into or out of the matrix. And suddenly you can see, institutionalized racism is everywhere. I didn't have to pay attention to this, but there it is. And there it is again. You almost get sick of it. What's the answer to the riddle? It's racism again. Of course it is.
Yeah. No, it's very true.
So we'll let's pivot to something
more cheerful.
Not that, yeah.
Sorry.
Let's talk about